Alright guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to do this great success story that was sent in from a subscriber. This is my guy, he is 47 years old. He's been happily married for like 11 years now. Yes, I said happily married, he found a good one. As well as has a big family, like 5 kids. He owns his own company, good money, good living, all that. He's doing great. However, that wasn't always the case. Our story begins 25 years ago, give or take, when he was 21, 22 years old, and he wasn't in such a good place. Where our guy here made a lot of mistakes and got involved with a woman who became his first wife, who was a train wreck. And you're going to see, goes through a lot of bad experiences, blah, 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 but definitely has the last laugh. And now he's kicking butt and taking names in life. And that'd be a great one to go over here, making the point that, guys, you can make a lot of mistakes when you're younger, as we all do, as I certainly did, but you can learn from them and move on, and certainly have the last laugh on those that do you wrong. Success truly is the best revenge. So for those of you guys that like a great success story or having a last laugh thing, you'll enjoy this. Or you guys out there that are relationship guys and want to see, somebody actually find some happiness in the world with a good girl, you're going to see this too. So it's definitely a good one and worth your time. However, this is a pretty long story, so I'm going to split this up into 2 parts. So I'm going to do part 1 now, and then 2 hours from now I'll do part 2, so you get this all in one night. So definitely worth your time. So it starts off, says here, hello SSM. To begin, English is my first language, so no excuses. My name is Kevin, I'm 47 years old, and I've been listening to you for well over a year, and I've been wanting to write in and send in my story for a while now. I am the product of multiple broken homes and divorces. Divorce is what I know and what I was shown by my parents and step-parents multiple times over, and it sucks. There you go. You can see from the get-go, guys, this guy was conditioned to be in an environment of drama and turmoil and all that, so it's no surprise how the early stage of his life goes. But that doesn't mean that it has to be your full story. At this time in my life, in 2025, I have a beautiful and loving wife and 5 children. But it's been quite a journey to get there where I am right now. My story begins on April Fool's Day, Y2K. The joke was on me. I met my first wife, we'll call her Christina, on April 1st, 2000. Well, you know what? Looking back, yeah, it was like a joke. The day began as a beautiful day in my beach town. I was 21 years old and living in a bachelor pad with 3 other guys. My days consisted of working, surfing, and partying. Hey, that's the life when you're 21. Well, one night, my best friend and I went to a club where I met Christina. Christina was there with her cousins and from out of town. Christina and I immediately hit off. We danced, we drank, and had a great time. At the end of the night, we all ended up going back to Christina's cousin's house. Christina and I slept on the floor together, but did not hook up. The next day, we exchanged phone numbers and began dating from there. Well, again, the life of a 21-year-old. Well, a few weeks later, my lease was up at my bachelor pad, and I moved in with my mom, who had just gone through a traumatic divorce and needed some extra help from me. After a short while, it became apparent that my lifestyle as a young man wasn't compatible with living with my mom. No, it should not be. That's good you went to help her, but it's not going to work long term. A few weeks, maybe a month, but that's it. Well, Christina offered for me to move in with her and her roommate in their single wide trailer an hour and a state away, and I stupidly agreed. Smack! Are you nuts? You've been only seeing Christina for a few weeks. But instantly you're thinking about all the hoo-ha you're going to be getting around the clock on moving in with her. It's a terrible idea. You don't know her. And if you're going to move in with a girl, either you move in together by a place you both choose, or she comes to your place. You don't go to her turf. Because guys that go to their girl's turf, guess what? They think they're allowed to be the freaking lordess of the manor, if you will. This doesn't work out well. He says, well, after living with Christina for 4 months, I proposed with the smallest diamond ring you've ever seen. Smack! You proposed after 4 months? Bro, see, this is just a recipe for disaster. But this is what he was conditioned to in an environment and family with divorces and drama and trauma. Seriously, guys. Well, she said yes, and 9 months later we got married, in our backyard. Not one man in my life tried to talk me out of it or stop me. Smack! We're getting married so soon, and all those male relatives, all the clueless guys that weren't telling him to, are you nuts? He says, a married life with Christina. She was a CNA and did not make a lot of money. I was a skilled tradesman working for a contractor. We partied hard, we were always broke, and living paycheck to paycheck. In September 2004, I got Christina pregnant. I started working extra hours and overtime to support my growing family, 60 plus hours a week. I bought us a small home in March of 2005. Then Christina gave birth to our baby girl in July. When I held my newborn girl, it was a life-changing experience. I told my baby girl that I would give her the world. Well, congratulations, Papa. And I know what you were all thinking, is this child his? But that we will receive that answer later on in the story. Christina and I joined the church. We're baptized together and generally trying to make better life choices. I was working my butt off, and Christina was staying home with our baby, breastfeeding, and being a good mom. Okay, what could go wrong? Well, in 2006, Christina went back to work as a CNA and took odd jobs here and there. Christina got a cell phone around this time, and that was a turning point in our marriage. Okay, here we go. For those people much younger than me, than I am, cell phones were just becoming popular. Christina's behavior began to change. She became possessive of her phone and generally started displaying sketchy behavior. At this point, I want to let the audiences know that I was young and dumb. So I want to point something out. Yes, cell phones have been along before 2006. I had my first Nokia phone in 1998, I think, or early 1999. My parents got it for me to have as an emergency. Something happens on the road, something like that. But, they had technically those phones going back in the 80s. You remember Gordon Gekko in Wall Street with his LeBron James size shoe phone he was talking to on the beach, or the Zach Morris phone? But by 2006, pretty much people had them, and texting was very big at that point. Texting wasn't as difficult as it was earlier, because you all remember how difficult it was to text, but we didn't have smartphones yet. Just want to mention that. Fast forward to 2007. An opportunity literally knocked on my front door to begin my own business with a large construction contract. The world opened up to me, and I started making real money. Awesome, brother. Good for you. That's tough and a risk, starting a business when you're now married, have a house, a young child. Good for you. After a while, Christina started to complain that I was working too much. Shocker. And was also upset that I didn't give her access to my business checking account. She would call me controlling. Newsflash, Christina and all the other wives out there think should have access to their husband's business checking accounts. That's not for personal expenses. The business checking account is for the business. If you commingle funds, if the business gets sued, they can see that as a way to try to get hold of your personal possessions, your personal assets. So you never commingle funds. She doesn't take $200 out of the business account to go to Target or something. That's stupid. But of course you're controlling. But Christina was stuck in her old ways and was really bad with money. I wasn't going to give her access to my business checking account. That summer, my business started getting really busy, and I needed to hire more people. Christina said she knew a guy named Eric that needed a job. And he says, yes, huge red flag that I did not see. A few months later, Christina and I were home watching TV, and someone started banging on my door. I answered the door to find an irate woman demanding to speak with me. She informed me that she caught her husband, Eric, cheating with my wife, Christina. I assume this is the same Eric that Christina wanted you to hire. What a bitch. She's cheating on you and rubbing it in your nose by having that guy work for you, and you're paying him? I asked her if she had proof, and she showed me several text conversations and a phone recording proving that Christina had indeed cheated. Remember how Christina was all secretive and hiding her phone? Well, I confronted Christina, went through her phone, and found more evidence of cheating. After talking it over with Christina and the pastor of my church, I decided to try to make things work. Smack! Yeah, let's see how that works out. I did it because of my baby girl, who was 2 years old at the time. Yes, SSM, smack. Anybody want to guess how things ended? Obviously not very well. This is why you don't take back a cheater. This is also why you don't rush into a relationship and a marriage with a girl you barely know. But he was young. After another year of marriage, it was now 2008. My business was booming, and I was busier than ever. Well, it's 2008. It's not going to be busy for long. We all know what's coming. Then in October, I left for work in the morning. I forgot something and had to turn around. I pull back into my driveway to find an unknown truck there at 7:30 in the morning. I walk in the house to find another man there with Christina. They both said, "Kevin, it's not what it looks like." Oh, what's he doing there at 7:30 in the morning? He come there for coffee and donuts? Of course it's what it looks like. Once a cheater, always a cheater, gentlemen. My first reply was to the unknown man, "How the F do you know my name?" I saw red and commenced beating his ass. Hey, I don't blame you, and I'm sure most guys don't blame you at all. That's a husband's right. But it isn't just him who deserves something bad happen. I then went back to my bedroom to grab my GUN. And I do blame you for that one. Bad idea. Really? Do you want to spend the rest of your life in prison for what could happen out of anger? Well, as I was pulling it out of my closet, my little girl, who was sleeping in our bed, woke up, smiled at me, and said, "Hi, Daddy. Is it wake-up time?" I put the GUN away, went back out, and told the man that my daughter just saved his life and to leave my house and never come back. Dude, she did save your life. Save his life and saved you from life in prison or the electric chair. I didn't want to speak to Christina. I told her I was going to work and that we would speak when I got home. When I got home that night, I confronted Christina. After arguing and yelling for an hour, Christina said she was unhappy and wanted to leave, but that she didn't have any money. I went to the ATM, pulled out $400, got back home, gave it to Christina the money, and she handed me my daughter and left. Holy crap. $400, here you go, here's your daughter, and she's out of there? I mean, that's awful, but then again, that's great for you, because she shouldn't be with your little daughter there. But, good God, man. Well, here's my RP moment. Aha. About a week later, Christina and I met for lunch. I asked Christina to come back home. She followed me to the house, and I got on my knees and begged her to come back. Smack! Number one, what kind of RP moment is that? Well, it's coming. And number two, you never she's cheated on you before and you took her back. You think it's going to happen and she's going to change again? Clearly it didn't work with the meeting with the pastor, for God's sakes. Christina told me I look pathetic and get off my knees. Well, she's right. You were being pathetic. Women are disgusted by weak men. Right here. Well, when I got off my knees, I was a different man. It was my born-again hard moment. Looking back now, Christina leaving me was the absolute best thing that ever could have happened to me and my daughter. Soon after that, my stepdad found out about what happened. He took me to an attorney and advised me through my divorce. Well, thank God for your stepdad. I'm glad Christina said that to you because it was like a verbal smack in the face. Well, at one point in the lawyer's office, I started getting teary-eyed over the end of life as I knew it, and my stepdad saw this and slapped the shit out of me, which is exactly what I need at the moment. See? People have a problem with me for smacking guys sometimes. Well, guys need a smack upside the head. That's just how we're wired, Also, I'm sure it comes to no surprise, I found out later that Christina had cheated multiple times throughout the marriage. Dude, I'm not surprised. Again, once a cheater, always a cheater. And gentlemen, this is why you don't rush into marriage like this. Rush into a relationship. Rush into moving in with a girl. Again, we're all wondering, is his baby girl his? He says, to this day, I still don't know how many men or how long Christina was cheating. And at that point, I don't care. Although I had no doubt that my daughter was mine, as she shares many attributes with me, paternity was confirmed through Ancestry.com that lists me as her father through DNA. Thank God. After all that, the last thing you need is to find out that your little girl who you love more than anything wasn't yours. Well, it turned out that even though I live in a no-fault state, the way Christina left me and my daughter was considered abandonment. My female shark of an attorney drew up the separation agreement. They gave me primary custody of my daughter and stipulated that Christina had to pay me child support. Ha ha ha. Here's the thing. Is she someone that is reliable to keep paying the child support? And would the state go after her if she stopped paying reliable child support? I have to question that. Well, I made sure everybody in my life, including Christina's friends and family, knew exactly what Christina had done to both me and my daughter. Smart man controlling the narrative. This is 20 years ago, or almost 17 years ago. Although on the advice of my mother, I made sure to never let my daughter know why her mother and I weren't together. I never spoke badly about her mother in front of her. It was important to me to protect my daughter from that information until she was old enough to understand. Well, that's very big of you, because I guarantee you that if the situation was reversed, she probably would have an earful for your daughter to say about you. Well, I was now 31 years old, and the next 6 months I joined a gym, started taking kickboxing classes, focused on my business, and adjusted to being a single dad. Wonderful. I'm glad to hear you weren't cooped up in your house feeling sorry for yourself. You're a single dad, you gotta take care of your little girl. Start kicking ass with your business. And hitting the gym, martial arts, kickboxing, all that, that's gonna make you feel better. Good for you. I grew up with a brother and 3 stepbrothers, so becoming a primary provider to a little girl definitely came with a learning curve. This time in my life is what shaped me into a man. As a side note, being a single father to a little girl taught me so much about the female sex in general. My daughter would sometimes, without provocation, just start crying. I would try to calm her down and ask her what was wrong, and she told me, "I don't know, Daddy, I just need to cry." That was the watershed moment for me. It helped me understand that women are naturally emotional, something I didn't understand before. Well, I agree, they are naturally emotional. Absolutely. But we all know darn well that they can turn on the tears as quickly as we can turn on the faucet in the sink and use that to their abilities. But yes, they are naturally emotional. You ever watch a freaking movie with a girl and there's a sad scene and, oh, the tears? Holy shit. Alternatively, during those same 6 months, Christina was partying it up, and by April 2009, she got pregnant by a jobless, broke man-child that had the time of the day to give her all the attention and validation she wanted. She gave birth to my daughter's younger brother 9 months later. Of course she did. I began to establish a new normal for myself and my daughter. By this time, Christina started taking our daughter most every other weekend, and I began dating. And by dating, I refer to what I call as my revenge tour. At that time, I only cared for 2 women in my life, my mother and my daughter. I was heartless and cold. I dated multiple women at once and did not care for a single one. So you turned into a playa. Now the next paragraph I'm going to read, guys, will not surprise any of you and really can sum up so much of what many of you have learned in your journey. He says, looking back now, I can acknowledge and admit that I treated many of those women very poorly. However, I learned a few things. One was that the worse I treated a woman, the more she would chase me. Another was to always keep my own stock of condoms and to always dispose of them myself. I was not going to get played. And a third thing was just how many women were ready to cheat on their husbands, which was always a hard no for me. This was actually where I learned about girls' weekends. Right there in that paragraph, that just said so much of what I've covered on so many fronts and we've learned in this channel over the last few years. That's dead on. What he said there really is an example of what most guys know. Most guys that watch this stuff, absorb this content, know. And also what most guys out there who don't like this content don't know. Throughout 2010, I stayed on my grind to maintain my business as the recession began to really affect my small beach town. I focused on maintaining my business and being the best dad I could possibly be to my daughter, whose life had been turned upside down. Yeah, remember, her mom's not there, even though her mom's a piece of crap. My so-called revenge tour lasted for a few years, and by 2012, my business was very successful, and my daughter and I were doing very well. You're a great dad, man. Really, you are. The mom's out partying and getting pregnant and doing Lord knows what, and you're doing everything you can to take care of your daughter. That's great. Well, by the spring of 2012, my brother asked me to help build a new fence at his house. At the end of the day, we walked across the street to drink a beer with my brother's neighbor, who I was acquainted with. I knew he was a retired Special Forces sniper. While there, on the neighbor's back porch, out walked a beautiful young woman with a baby on her hip. She came and sat down next to me. Uh-oh. Don't even go there, dude. We all know what you're thinking. I looked at her and asked, "Is that your baby?" She looked shyly back at me and quietly answered, "No, this is my niece. I'm home from college." We shared a light conversation, and then my brother and I soon left. I went home that night and thought to myself, I just met my wife. Smack! Don't get so carried away, dude. Pretty young girls paying attention to you. Goodness sake. I want to point out at this point, guys, he is now in his early 30s. I think 33 or something, 34. And he's meeting this young gal. She's in college. 20, 21, 22. did I know that after that night, that same beautiful young gal, Lacey, developed a crush on me. But I was soon to find that out. At my brother's annual 4th of July pool party, his neighbor's family, including Lacey, were at the party. Lacey was the hottest woman there in her little bikini. By the end of the night, we found ourselves alone on my brother's back porch. Lacey looked at me and patted the seat next to her and said, "Come sit next to me." I knew I was attracted to her, but this was the moment I realized she was attracted to me. Without further detail, Lacey went home with me that night. Whoa, you stud. So I guarantee you, Lacey knew you were coming to that party, and Lacey made damn sure you were there, or she was there, and wearing a tiny little bikini to catch your attention. That's what they do when they like guys. It says here, our budding summer fling caused some tension and drama amongst my brother, Lacey's parents, and their neighborhood friend group, mostly due to our 13-year age gap. I was 34, Lacey was 21, and still in college. Up to that point, I dated women only a few years younger than me, and women up to 39 years old. I have never met more women in my life that said they were 39. Okay, so I can understand how Lacey's parents might take a little issue. You're 34, she's 21. It happens, but still, I can understand that. But then again, try this one on for size. When my mom and dad started dating in the 60s, whenever the hell that was, my mom was 21, just like Lacey, and my dad was 45. Yeah. However, my dad had a baby face, and it certainly helped that he was a very good-looking, very charming doctor, and all the girls liked. And my grandma and grandpa, my mom's parents, they had no problem with that. And they loved the idea of a son-in-law who was a doctor. And eventually I showed up. The end. Lacey was the first time I decided to change that rule for myself. And it was worth it. Guys, I had more fun dating Lacey that summer than any other dating relationship I had experienced. No single mom, no baby daddy, ex-husband issues, or emotional baggage. That's how it's supposed to be, man. It shouldn't be drama fest. It should be fun. Also, she was the first woman not to ever flake on plans that we made. SSM Lacey's perception of me was always as a player, starting from the first night that we got together. And I opened up my drawer of condoms, and she said to me, "Oh, you've done this before, huh?" She was the first woman to ask me, "Should I leave, or do you want me to stay?" Every other time I could think of with another woman, I couldn't wait for them to leave the house. When Lacey asked me if she should leave, I realized I wanted her to stay. Yeah, she could sense that bad boy in you, and she was attracted to that. And by the way, I guarantee you that you probably wouldn't have had such a good outcome if you were with Lacey if you hadn't become R-pilled from all the bad experiences with your first wife. And yeah, women love a bad boy. End of story. You were a bad boy, but not a total scumbag Chatter Tyrone. With the girls, you were the bad boy type, love them and leave them, but you were taking care of your girl, no apologies. And again, who can blame you after what you went through? Lacey also verbalized her thought process to me and was the most rational, unemotional woman I'd been with. Lacey and I had a whirlwind romance, and emotions were growing. We soon established a committed relationship, spending every weekend and most weekdays together. Damn, dude. I wouldn't go that far, but that's just me, but that sounds like an awesome summer. And the part you mentioned of her being rational and unemotional, and I don't mean like cold a-hole, but just, I think she probably got that from her Special Forces dad. I think it's worth noting that during that time I was dating Lacey, I had Jessica's and Brittany's throwing themselves at me, especially if Lacey was present. I swear I had more women throw themselves at me that summer than at any other time in my life. That's because you were taken, because you were a guy in your 30s with a beautiful young 21-year-old. They all notice it. They're thinking, "Oh, shit, I want a piece of that. If you got her, there must be something about you." And at the end of the day, the most attractive guy to a woman is a man who's taken. Lacey would just laugh it off and eventually become a running joke. When I saw men hit on her, when she didn't actually know I was watching, I saw her completely shut them down and send them away. That's great. Good girl. Although that summer was one of the best summers of my life, it sadly came to an end. Lacey went back to college in August, and she broke up with me by September. Uh-oh. Lacey's mom, my sister-in-law, planted a seed out in Lacey's head by letting Lacey know that I was still legally married. What? After all that with Christina, crazy Christina, you're still freaking married? Dude, Why the hell didn't you end it? Plenty of opportunity. You can't blame Lacey for and her mom and sister taking issue with that and causing her to be like, I'm going to back away a little bit. Plus, she's going back to school. But as you're going to see, guys, things turn out well in the end. Now, guys, I'm going to have to cut it off here because it's getting kind of long. But I'm going to cover part 2 in 2 hours. And even though you don't want me to cut it off, things get really good where things go with this guy in his life, with her and all that, and an absolute last laugh, if you will, multiple fronts to the first stage of his life that went incredibly wrong. So see you in 2 hours. You guys will definitely enjoy it.